for giving us your time at the end of a very busy summit. For the people that don't know on the other end, if you could just introduce yourself and say like what you were doing in relation to this summit.
My name's Este Darin and I was facilitating the summit. So I was trying to provide the scaffolding that would let people have the conversations and ideas that they needed to have at the summit.
And you did a very great job. There was a lot of really helpful summarising for very tired brains. I'm really interested, because you did a lot of that summarising, picking out these kind of key lessons that were getting thrown out by some amazing speakers. I'm interested if there is like 1 or 2 or 3 key lessons that have continued to stick with you after you've shared them with us. Like, what are the things that are still ringing around in your brain on the final day, I guess?
Now that's a good question. One of them is more about me than than perhaps what everyone else learnt. So I've been worked in the arts community, but I haven't ever worked specifically in the youth arts sector. So the notion of by, with and for young people is something I've heard but perhaps not ever really understood. And so just to make it all about me, one of the things that I kept coming back to was this by, with and for young people. And there was in the before the summit we ran a session where we spoke with some young people from the youth arts sector. And there was one thing, and I can't remember the person that said it, but they said we need to listen to young people and value them and their opinions for who they are today, not to make them into, I'm paraphrasing here, and they said it, much more, with much better articulation, but these people are valuable for what they think and say now, and not to be anything in the future. That's great as well. So that was something that I kept coming back to. One of the other things that I think kept coming out at the summit was this idea of friendship and relationships. So in all of the work, whether it was within the organisation, partnering with another organisation, working with government, that was something that came through on the final day today, that there's still humans that are making decisions and doing stuff, and that you need to be able to connect as humans before you can partner and move forward together. And I think that's something that we all understood perhaps in the work either between artists or between organisations, but to then translate that into government as well, I think really broke down some of the mystery around that, and be like, oh no, we need to build a relationship, and then we can talk. Even if they might be difficult conversations. So I think that's where I'm going to leave it.
And they're both things that also like really stuck out to me as well. And then I guess I'm also interested, so you use this provocation a lot to get people thinking about future action, this notion of like, what next? And there's really I really enjoyed the aspect of it being, if there's less than a 70% chance of you actually doing it, change it. Make it something actionable. And as somebody who you've mentioned had a bit of a mind shift based on what happened at the conference, I want to know what's next?
Oh, that's a great question. What's next for me? So I'm not an artist, and I'm not tied to an arts organisation at the moment, but we have a consultation happening on our national cultural policy, and I've sort of been like, I should put in a submission to that. They've encouraged everyone to put in a submission. People outside of the arts should put in a submission. I should put in a submission. Like, not really ever committing to that. And I think some of the things that I heard at the conference reminded me why it was important, even though I'm not a significant voice, that I still need to add my voice to the conversation. So the next step for me is to take some of what I've heard today and what I've heard in other forums as well, and put in an individual submission to the national the national cultural policy. I keep hearing different names for it. So that's a lot of words, but so if I say it out loud, then I will actually do it. So my next step is to put in my own short submission to the National Cultural Policy.
Which is very exciting, because the more people that do, the better chance we have of influencing the ranking of youth arts sector in it. And then I think one final question I'm really interested in hearing from you on, because you've had this notion of you're a facilitator, you were somebody who was in the process of allowing conversation, and then you're also not somebody who traditionally works in this sector. So I actually think you're perhaps best posed to give us maybe if you were to sum up the delegates and the type of people that work in youth arts, is there a way you can sum them up?
Ooh, good question. I'd describe it as a really delicious soup. You know, where you take all the bits, all the different bits, and you're like, I don't know what I could do with that, I don't know what I could do with that, and I don't know what I could do with that, but I just throw them all together, and you end up with just something bubbling away that's just inviting and warming and nourishing. That's what I'm going to go with, the soup metaphor.
And I think it's a great metaphor. Thank you so much.
Way to wiggle myself out of a very hard question. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
They were very good answers.
Thank you.
And I hope the sum up was useful.